Are you happy in your business? Now, I have had my share of emotional ups and downs in my 20 years of being a solo entrepreneur coach. And the patterns I've seen in myself and in my clients is that those downs are usually when I was personally feeling unfulfilled. Sometimes it was because a launch that flopped, and sometimes it was just life and had nothing to do with business. But those ups, oh boy, those are the times when I was feeling my most authentic and completely aligned to my purpose, or when I just felt like I was rocking that work-life balance. I would be thinking I could do this all day long and never feel tired. One of my loves is sharing what works for me and what has been working for my clients to achieve this very feeling, full of passion, happiness, peace, and freedom. So I decided to create a private podcast for coaches. Maybe you just want to develop better communication skills that boosts engagement, leads to better results, and makes you feel like you're actually making a difference in the lives of the people you serve. Then you're invited too. We talk about this and more in the UBU private podcast for coaches. Whether you're a mentor, a parent, or run a client-focused business, coaching skills benefit everyone and anyone who wants to communicate in a way that builds relationships. Fall in love with your life and business again. Click the link in the show notes for your invitation to join us right now. Then come back and enjoy this episode. Hey, difference maker. Let's continue to listen in on the conversation between Lindsey Haeger, the host of the Peacemakers podcast, and me as we continue to explore the 9 acknowledgement languages of the Enneagram Types. It's time to stop comparing yourself to others and plug into what is uniquely you. Welcome to Unbox Your Personality, the podcast for coaches, parents, and mentors like you who understand that your happiness makes you more effective at what you do, bringing out the best in others. I'm Jen P. Higgins, personality strategist and Enneagram fluff remover. Get laser focused on who you are and who you aren't, so you're free to make the impact you were born to make. And have fun doing it. Your personality is your business. So let's get down to business.
Maybe I just need to go back to the drawing board altogether.
That's what we're doing now, right?
Yeah.
In general, 6s, they know that they can overthink, but normally they don't believe that they're overthinkers. So I don't know if you remember in the book when I talk about there are types that are aware and comfortable with their acknowledgement languages, and then there's types that aren't aware and uncomfortable with their dialect of their language, and there are types that are aware but are not comfortable. There are 3 types, which are the 7, 1s, and 4s that are aware, but they're not comfortable with their acknowledgement languages, and so they'll suppress them.
And when you say they're not comfortable, will you talk more about that part? Like they're self-aware, but they're not comfortable with what?
With the dialect of their acknowledgement languages. So give me a type, for example.
Okay, so a 1.
Okay, so for a type 1, let's say anger, because they're in the anger triad, right? They know that they're angry, but because it's not becoming, or being angry is not associated with being good, right?
Right.
Then they will suppress it. But then what happens is it leaks out, right? Because it's there and they can't hold it in forever, but their anger is always justified. There's always a reason why they're angry, and that helps them justify why it came out. I'm still good. I did this because it's righteous anger, right?
Yeah.
And so they justify it to show that they're still good. And any type that's attached to a 1 can have that same kind of behavior as well.
So for a 6, can you say how that would look for a 6? Like our 6 is aware, but they're not. How would you classify them in terms of their awareness?
Okay, so I'll just use the same language that we were using for the one, which was the emotional yardstick. So for the type 6, that emotional yardstick is fear. And so 6s being unaware and uncomfortable, they don't really see themselves as anxious people. They don't really, kind of like the 9s, how the 9s aren't aware of their anger and just naturally are never angry. Like if you see a 9 that is angry, it will shock you and it will also shock them. They'll be like, wait, where did that come from?
Right.
Sorry, I don't know where in the world that came from.
Yeah.
Same thing with the 6s, but with fear. So when they have a panic attack, that's not normal for them. It's like, where did that come from? But it drives them like that.
Yeah.
The fear of not being prepared, the fear of not having support. So they get all these systems together, or they help other people get systems together and they advocate for them. So everybody will feel supported in the community.
Yeah. I also wonder how much, just like being a counselor, like that's just my world. So I've had to talk to people so often about their fear and, trying not to project my own issues onto them, but like going through it in my head, like, well, I probably deal with fear similarly to how my client does. So I feel like the fact that I have had the light shined on me through counseling classes and going through my parents' divorce and going through counseling myself, I've always been very aware of either fearful of things as a child or my overthinking as an adult. And my husband has been able to shine even more light on, you're doing your thing again. You're doing your Lindsey thing. You're starting something new. And remember, when you start something new, you always are in your head and scared and think you can't do it and think something is really scary up ahead that you have to prepare for. And I'm like, oh yeah, I am doing that again. So it's like, I will have these moments of being unconscious of that, but then but he and I are such processors together that it really is just part of our language that we use with each other. So that, I think that could make a difference too, in terms of how aware I am of that.
Yeah, definitely life experiences. And because even for me, when I had my aha moment and I was talking to my mentor, it was so funny. I said, guess what? I'm not a 4. And she was like, so are you a 6 or a 7? And I was like, you knew this whole time. You knew this whole time I wasn't a 4 and you didn't say anything, which I love because she was allowing me to unbox myself. Basically.
Wow.
She let me do my own work. And that is something that I really honor for other people because it was so valuable to me. And so when people come and just say, just tell me what type I am.
Yeah.
That puts a lot of pressure on me because that means I have to crawl into your head and guess. And it's not fair. And it shortchanges people also. Yeah. My job is really to put that stone in people's shoe, which is very 6-like. So 6 is the doubter, makes people think a little bit more. Well, what about this? And what about that? And so to me, though, it's fun. Like, it's like a scavenger hunt. It's not a survival mechanism like it is for a type 6. So a type 6 is literally trying to cover all the bases. I want to plan A through Z to make sure that, I'm going to be completely prepared for whatever life throws at me.
I think too, like whenever I'm in a situation of supporting someone and this fear is taking over me, and like, so I'm planning, I'm thinking ahead, who can we talk to give you support, or who can we, what train wrecks are up ahead that we're not thinking of. So there is a funness in that. There is something I enjoy about it because it's kind of like, ooh, let's research. This is fun. But what's not fun is when she doesn't do what I want her to do. And I really feel so strongly that it's the thing you need to do. And that's my pride. That's my like, chill out. Like, God, there is a sovereign being here. Like, this is her journey. And so my work has been, you can do all you can do, but she's her own person. And I have to sit with the fact that I can't, like, I have to sit with the fact that I'm not feeling safe inside, even though things aren't going the way that I want them to go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I do resonate with like the triangle, the 369. If I'm talking about like going into, like, when I go in that go mode, which I would say I get into that unhealthy 3 space, and I start to feel shame. I start to feel like people are looking at me and they're judging me and I'm not good enough. I start to do that comparison game, and it's healthy for me to go back into the 9 space of pull back, and this isn't yours to solve, and all is well. Like, taking on more of that faith stance, which I believe isn't faith part of the 6's journey of health?
I think it's a part of everybody's journey of health.
Yeah.
So if we go back and look at the motivations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you explain that you're going into what you're calling that 3 space and stress, and you're starting to compare and feel ashamed, why are you feeling ashamed? Are you feeling a bit disappointed that you haven't finished that project yet? Are the kids' schedules impacting your business? Or are the demands of your business affecting your relationships at home? Maybe you need a magic formula for that work-life balance before your fire gets so dim or it completely burns out. I've been there. There was a point in my life where I was juggling 2 businesses and homeschooling and had personal health issues. There was barely time to even connect with myself, much less connect with my husband. When I was finally officially diagnosed with ADHD, I felt like that explained everything. I had a new perspective and started approaching things in a new way. So I created a guide containing 20 tips that I personally use, and they have worked for me for helping me stay on course with my goals. Now, you might not have ADHD, but I bet you can relate to having a million distractions during the day. So if you're ready to stop procrastinating or stop being hard on yourself for missing yet another deadline, self-imposed or not, go ahead and download the guide at powercoachjen.com. If you just find one tip from the list that helps you move forward today, you will be so glad you took the time to read it. Go to powercoachjen.com and download the guide right now.
Well, I feel like I wasn't prepared enough, or I wasn't presenting myself as competent, or they're going to see that I'm this fraud. Like, they're going to see that underneath this exterior of like strength that I'm trying to put out, they're going to see that it's just like a jello underneath of fear of whatever, that I'm really just trying to be so strong and trying to put forth this whatever, but I could be kind of crushed pretty easily. And when I start to get pushback, if someone's judging me or questioning me, then those things that I felt so strongly about, I'm like, oh, well, they're right. And now I feel like a fool. And I go into that brain space, but it's surrounded around like shame. I shouldn't have even tried. I should not have even put myself out there. Like, why don't I just stay in my corner and be quiet?
Something that I recognized with my journey of mistyping is that we can fit ourselves into any triangle. And we all have a triangle. It just may not be that equilateral triangle in the middle, but we all have a triangle,
right?
Of our stress and our security. When I thought I was a 4, I could see myself as a 1. I could see my oneness, and like, this is what, I just need to be responsible, and I just need to do, do this and not be so emotional? Why am I so embarrassed? It doesn't really matter what other people think. Okay. So here's my internal monologue. and I would tell myself, I just need to go to my type 1 and just do the right thing. And whenever I felt like I was trying to rescue people, because that's the other direction, right? When I was trying to rescue people, I'm like, that's not my job. That makes sense, right? When you're looking at the patterns, that really makes sense. And so when we just look at behaviors and the behavior patterns like that, it can be so easy to convince ourselves that that's our pattern, because that is the language that we use. Like, we know that the language for the type 1, or at least mainstream language for the type 1, is responsibility and perfectionism and being good and not being
structure
evil. Yes, OCD, like all these are the stereotypical language that aren't always actually correct, because it's not really looking at the motivations of why they're being that way. It's just words. It's just language. It's, I think I say in the book, if not, I'm saying it now. If you can envision yourself doing it, then that's a behavior.
Right. You did say that.
And so really looking at the motivations, it's so easy to get caught up. It's so easy to get caught up in our behaviors. And what we have to ask ourselves, okay, is this a layer from an experience? Maybe a trauma layer, maybe a culture layer, maybe a career layer. Because, I find myself, when I said, my mentor said, are you a 6 or a 7? Because I'm a coach, that's my job, is to ask questions, right? My job is to ask them questions, to get them to dig deeper, to get them to, if they're going down a line of thinking that is not the direction that they want to go, for me to redirect them and make them think a different thought that may or may not get them to their destination. But if I know they're going in the opposite direction, then that my job is to ask them the question that's going to prompt them to think a different thought.
Open up their mind to more possibilities.
Exactly. And so if you listen to the language, I'm asking questions, I am making them doubt, I am wanting them to trust me, like, because I am your coach, right? Those are all 6 language, but I'm not a 6. Well, here's another example. So after recording the first part of Terry's interview yesterday, I told him, I said, if I didn't know any better, like if I, like old Jen at the beginning of my Enneagram journey of just learning about the Enneagram, I would have said that you're a 1. Just because of his posture, his cadence, of the way he holds his face when he talks is very rigid. And, 9s are known to be relaxed and lackadaisical. That's what they're known. And he absolutely can be that way. But I just thought it was really interesting. But what it is it's him being under stress and going into his type 6 and overthinking. And so as he's overthinking, he's withdrawing, and it's a bodily withdrawal. And so that's making him stiff. And so it was super, super interesting to kind of see that depending on where we are in stress, we can look like another type. And I've tested all sorts. Like, I look a lot like a type 2, even with when you're looking at my behaviors, but then my motivations are not the same as a type 2. Of course, I want to be appreciated, right? Who doesn't? But it is not the primary driver of why I do what I do. Like, I don't do things solely so I will feel appreciated. That's just a bonus. I do it because that gives me satisfaction. It's like, That's satisfying. I'm so glad I
Mhm.
got to do that. That was a great experience. And so those are the motivations for me of having that experience, experiencing all the things and enjoying it. But you know what? Sevens will experience unenjoyable things at least once just to see, is that really unenjoyable?
That's
I
funny.
don't know if I trust you. That looks kind of fun. Let me see for myself and see if I really won't enjoy it.
Oh,
But
that
that
is
would
really
be
funny.
not trusting somebody else's opinion, right? So
Yeah.
if when we're using languages that are typically used for certain types, that's where a lot of times just looking at behaviors can get us stuck in
Yeah.
really understanding which type we are. And
Yeah.
so the thing that always gets me on the right track, because I'll even say, why am I not a 3? Or why am I not a 1? Or why, like, could I be? I mean, I still do that, like last week.
Mhm.
And it's the 9 acknowledgement languages that brings me back to reality.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I'm questioning it and being curious about it is a
Mhm.
clue that I'm a type 7. Because
Mhm.
not all types care.
Yeah.
like
Right.
like that just doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Why am I a 7 and not a 6? Because I have a lot of 6 behaviors. A lot,
Mhm.
not just because I'm a coach, but also because of parenting special needs kids, where I just had to, uh, I basically had to premeditate everything. That's so stressful to me. And
Mhm.
that's what a 6 lives for. Like, yes. Tell me what's going to go wrong and I will come up with a solution.
Is that really what they live for? 'Cause I feel like the sixes that I have, because I've joined some six groups. And again, this is all through a stereotyping, like, a lens of just who knows if all these people are sixes that I'm reading their stuff.
Exactly.
But I feel like there is a part of it that that's what they live for. But so many of them, and I feel like it's the ones that are like 6 wing 5. They're like, ultimately, I just want to be like on the couch, letting other people do these things that I'm doing, but no one else is doing it. And so I'm stepping up to the plate and I'm going to do it right. And I'm going to cover all my bases and think of all the things that other people haven't thought of. But like ultimately, Lindsey, this Lindsey right here, I want other people to take care of all this stuff that I'm trying to do. Not the things I'm passionate about, but like the daily like annoyances that I'm like, this is broken. Oh gosh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Like somebody, dad, can you come and fix this for me? I do really like watching panels. I love watching Beatrice Chestnut's panels and the narrative Enneagram and like art of growth. That's super helpful. But I've watched all the 9 ones. Now I need to watch the other types.
Is really just being aware that mistyping is so
Mhm.
common. I actually discourage people to go into type exclusive situations
Mhm.
because you never know who's been mistyped.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And then you
Yeah.
go into a group kind of assuming that everybody in there is a type 6 and they know it and they're correct and it's accurate.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and then you're in a bubble and you have no idea. There's nobody there to say, "Oh yeah, I do that too and I'm not a 6."
Totally.
Whereas if you are in a more inclusive community, then you get that bigger perspective.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, like if someone's asking a question, is this a 9 thing? The people that it does resonate with are going to be motivated to write something like, yeah, I totally do that all the time. But the people that it doesn't relate to, they're probably just scrolling by. They're
Mhm.
like, oh, nope, that's not me. And so you don't get that opposing
Right.
opposing opinion. So anyway, I have a question for you. So back to the 9 acknowledgement languages. I want to pull up my highlighted stuff for, let's see here. Experience gate, attention filter, emotional yardstick, control tactic, social style, pace style, timeline focus, timeline blind spot, center blind spot. So of those 9, for someone in my position or that you're coaching, like what should I just go from the top and just work down? Like, what would be your first go-to for me processing this? Am I 9 or 6 or what am I? Where should I go first?
Yeah, you can do that. It doesn't really matter. There's not an order to them because they all happen at the same time. So sometimes if you go in order, then we think it's going to happen linearly like that, but it doesn't. They all happen at the same time. And that's important to know. If anger is the first thing, then you would be in the anger triad. But like for me, and I think I say this in the book, I only saw my anger because that was the emotion I was comfortable with. I wasn't comfortable with the fear. I knew it was there. I'm not sure if I wasn't comfortable or if I just didn't have an outlet. Like I didn't know how to express it because I'm so freaking optimistic. Maybe I just didn't have an outlet for it, but I do now. So now I have an outlet for my fear and I'm more in touch with it. And so you can have type 7s who have maybe been through counseling or had a really good mentor or had a good faith base that told them, do not be afraid. Right?
Right.
But what I've learned is that, especially with my mistyping, my story where I thought I was going to be crying, but I never cried. And I was actually doubled over with anticipatory anxiety. And also a little self-criticism, like, why am I not crying? This is sad. Like, this is awful. And that would be me going into that type 1 of criticism.
Yeah.
So when we go to different numbers, we can behave like their acknowledgement language, but it is for our own motivations.
Okay.
So where a type 1 will stay self-critical longer because being critical aloud to someone else is not seen as, a good thing to do. A type 7 will be self-critical first, but then turn the anger and criticism on someone else because it's not comfortable to criticize. Like, so it's not comfortable for me to criticize myself. So I'm like, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Let me go criticize somebody else. That feels way better.
Yeah. I do the projecting thing like crazy. But I'm usually criticizing myself all the time. And then somebody comes into my crossfire of getting into my space of what I thought needed to be a certain way. And then I'm like projecting, like, you don't know what's going on here. And I have this all tidied up here. And
get out of my space.
Don't come in on this perfection I've gotten here.
Yeah.
Anger has been really interesting. I'm very fearful of, I mean, I don't allow myself to feel anger a lot. However, I think I'm more fearful of other people's anger towards me than I am even of me feeling anger. Like I can get really anxious and then the anger comes and I'm like, ooh. I know that you don't go a lot into the subtypes, but if I'm a self-pres 6, I find that about myself is if I can get warm with someone, if I can like try and win them over through my little girl Lindsey-ness, especially if I don't trust them, then I'm like, okay, we're good. I at least have won them over with my warmth and I can keep my eye on them. Then I can feel safe a little bit.
So here's a little stone for you.
Okay.
The self-pres 2 is like that also.
What? Self-pres 2 is like that also.
Can be. I mean, it's for a different reason. But the behaviors would be similar. Of the, I'm going to basically be warm, maybe butter you up a little so that you'll take care of me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The take care of part. I've never seen myself as being in that, the heart, the feeling. That's like, I feel like that's like my repressed center.
And so if you would like another stone.
Okay.
Another stone, the self-pres 2 also looks like a type 7, especially the social 7, which is what I am. I'm a social 7. So I do talk in the book, I do talk about when I do go into instincts in depth is when I'm talking about countertypes. And more
Yes.
so just to talk about the blind spots, because
Mhm.
countertypes can be a blind spot. It was exactly why I didn't think I was a 7. And I resisted it. Like I have a lot of resistance, which resistance would be a red triad thing, but
Mhm.
countertypes resist also. So
Mhm.
they have, specifically for a type 7, they have an idea of what's going to make them happy or make them content or is going to be satisfying, but then they'll do the opposite for some odd, crazy, silly reason that's
That is
frustrating.
silly.
Super frustrating.
So what's your recommendation for someone that's just kind of like do you recommend me just camping out in the type 2 land for a while, or type 6? Do you recommend me trying like some of the growth tools for a 6 or a 2? I mean, what?
I wouldn't spend too much energy on the growth tools yet. Because honestly, the growth tools are hard. they're really hard. And if they are coming easy to you, then that's probably not your growth path.
Mhm.
So, and so a lot of people can self-sabotage because they're like, woohoo, look at me growing. I'm so healthy. Woo. And
Right.
it's like, probably not. Like if that's easy for you, that means you've probably been maybe doing it for a really, really long time, like 80 years, or that's not your growth path. You're probably a different type. So what I usually recommend is, the processes of elimination and to eliminate the types that you definitely cannot be. Like, I mean, just right off the bat, probably not an 8, right? Probably not a 4. Right.
Exactly.
I could probably even throw in probably not a 3.
3, right? No.
I definitely, and I think you agree that you're in that blue triad. Could be a 9 because 9s know that they overthink. 6s do not, but 9s do. They're more aware of that overthinking. They're not bothered by it. I mean, they are on the outside, but on their awareness level, they're not bothered by it. It's almost like, well, this is just life, because 9s take things as they come and they accept everything. They won't label it anger, but they accept it. But those were the ones that off the bat I would eliminate. So that would leave 9, 1, 2, 6, and 7. So those are the 5 types that you can go in and just kind of question. You can write them and put them in sticky notes, and then every day, like, which one's winning today?
Oh my goodness.
And usually with some, and I would encourage really just looking at the 9 acknowledgement languages, because we can get so distracted by behaviors and really understanding it's a package. So for example, when I am thinking, okay, how am I not a 6? How do I know for sure I'm not a 6? I behave so much like a 6. I mean, even like, I'll laugh because my son left today for camp for a week. And I was like, okay, do you have this? Do you have that? He's a 7 too. And he was coming to us, is there anything that I'm forgetting? Well, what's the reason behind it? The reason is because he doesn't want to miss out on something. Like, I don't bring my swim trunks and then I can't swim. Very much so with 7 reason. It's not a survival, safety, security reason like it is for a type 6, where it be, I just want to be prepared for what if we get stuck in the woods and we need to roast hot dogs or something, and how are we going to build a fire? Let me bring some dry kindling just in case it rains.
I don't see, whenever I'm definitely a preparer, but I don't resonate with the safety part in terms of like saving my life. I don't resonate with the saving my life part of preparing. I resonate with, like, I don't want to be inconvenienced. So if I'm packing for a trip and I go into the packing thinking I want this to be easy. I'm going to pack 3 things of clothes, 3 things of undergarments, blah, blah, blah. But then like I end up packing 10 of everything because I don't want to get there and be inconvenienced and have to go and feel the stress of like, oh, I don't have that and I've got to go now. Now I have to go do this. And so it feels like anxiety. And I can't put the safety label on it because I'm like, I'm not going to die because I forgot a t-shirt or pajamas. It's fine. I don't know what that connection, I don't know how to label that safety part of what I'm doing. I am definitely over preparing, but why am I over preparing?
It sounds more either 7-ish or 1-ish. Ish, is the key word there. Because it could be going into a 6 wing. For me, being an introvert, I can relate to that. It's like, ugh, like I don't want, I want to rest. I don't want to people right now.
Yeah.
And so I can definitely relate to that aspect. And I'm a 7, and I know I'm a 7, and I can't convince myself, and I've tried, convince myself I'm another number. So whenever I'm asking myself, why am I not a 3? Because 7s and 3s are both fast paced. They're both future focused. They're both, there's so many similarities. They're ambition driven. Like I feel like I'm ambitious. I reach my goals, and I don't reach all of them. Maybe that's the difference. I think 3s reach all of them. And they look good doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as a 7, I'm more vulnerable about, and not vulnerable in a woe is me kind of way, but more vulnerable about like, haha, I totally screwed up kind of way, which that's harder for a 3. Like a 3 can do that. But that's harder for a 3 to do, to really admit that they made a mistake.
Because it's so tied to their identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's how it's so subtle though. It's so subtle. Like there's so many things between me and the acknowledgement languages of a 3 that are so similar, especially since they're on the triangle of unaware and unaccepting. So they don't consider themselves emoters. Like in fact, they reject feelings. It's like, don't bring your feelings to me. I don't have time for that. I've got things to do, places to go.
Right.
But they're on the emotion triad. And so, a lot of times they consider themselves thinkers. They consider themselves doers, not feelers. That's another reason why 7s and 3s look so much alike, but it always comes down to that motivation. Okay, so what makes them different? The 3s are really driven by emotion. The fact that they say, don't bring your emotions to me because I don't have time for it, shows that they are driven by emotion. Or if they start getting emotional about something, like, well, I'm just not going to do that because my emotions are getting in the way. And if my emotions are in the way, I'm not going to succeed at it. So I'm either not even going to attempt, or I'm going to put a pin in it and say, I'm going to do that in 10 years when all this emotional crap is done.
Wow.
But they say that to themselves. It's not something that they, admit freely, unless they're in a very vulnerable, secure moment with somebody that they can share that with.
Right.
But for a type 7, they don't mind. They don't mind emotions. And in fact, if it's a negative emotion, they won't sit there and be sad with you. They'll try to cheer you up, paint a silver lining on it. That's something that I've really had to learn to do, is to, even though I'm uncomfortable with the pain, even though it's not my pain, I've had to learn to be like, okay, I'm not going to help them if I don't let them express it. They need to express it. So those are times when, as a 7, I have invalidated other people by not really acknowledging the negative emotions.
Right. Yeah. So much to it. I love it, but I have to like go in and go out to like because I am such a head person. If I let myself stay there too long, it's just like I'm spinning in the what ifs and the I got to figure this out and this is not good and that's when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go take a nap. Gonna shut this party down. I'm afraid that if I do shut it down and go take a nap, then I won't get back up to do it. I won't, like, I stop and I won't have the momentum to get back up.
Mm-hmm. So this has been so great. Conversation. What do you think?
I've loved it. I mean, I'm just like I said, this book is going to stay on my Kindle. Are you going to get hard copies at any point?
They're coming out in January.
Okay. Because I want a hard copy too. Because it's one of those like go back to like let me sit in it and continue to soak up all the goodness. Awesome. So I'm just like I'm so proud of you. Oh. I'm in awe of you, honestly. Really, really good.
Thanks.
Really good. One last thing I wanted to say. I feel like you do a really good job at just like encouraging others and helping them. Like whenever I said you nailed the title, I think you just like exude that you be you. You exude that energy of wanting whoever's in front of you just to be themselves. And so I hope others will come to know you as they're coming to know the book, that they'll feel that from you. I know they will.
Thank you. Best compliment. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you.
Now, even though our conversation went a little off script, just kidding, there wasn't a script. I do feel like our conversation reconfirmed my resolve that the 9 Acknowledgement Languages is the best approach to the Enneagram, not just for typing, but also for growing. Now, don't forget to add yourself to the communication list for the grand opening of Unbox University. You'll receive $100 off the group coaching option for the 9 Acknowledgement Languages course just for being on the list, plus other special offers. The link is go.unboxenneagram.com/grand. Discover a tribe that wants to help you unbox yourself so you can unleash your power. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and reviewing the Unbox Your Personality podcast. To learn more about yourself, go to powercoachjen.com. Find out how you are different so you can make your difference.